In the latter part of the 19th century, a gathering of European powers took place that would forever change the course of history. Known as the Berlin Conference, it is one of history's most infamous events, a gathering that began in November 1884 and concluded in February 1885. Here, in the heart of Europe, diplomats and leaders from 14 nations came together, not to resolve an internal European matter, but to determine the fate of another continent entirely, Africa. Led initially by the calls of German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, the conference aimed to quell the increasingly fierce competition among European powers over African land and resources. The continent, rich in natural resources, had become a tempting indulgence, attractive for both its potential wealth and strategic advantages. Yet, despite all dominant decisions being made, no single voice from Africa was present at the conference table. The absence of African representation during the Berlin Conference underscores the imperialist attitudes of the time, viewing the continent not as a crucible of cultures and peoples, but rather as a piece of land to be owned, conquered, and mined. The conference's ostensible goal was the orderly division of Africa to prevent conflict among European nations, laying down the grim foundations of what they called the scramble for Africa. How? By defining almost arbitrary geometric boundaries that bore little, if any, regard for the myriad ethnic, cultural, and linguistic diversities within the continent. The rules declared new territorial acquisitions should be validated by notifying the other powers and establishing an effective occupation of territory, a concept as vague as it was destructive. In just a few short months, maps of Africa were redrawn. From the shores of West Africa to the heart of the Congo Basin, European powers staked their claims with precision, dividing the vast lands and cultures into colonies and protectorates. Belgium seized a massive portion of Central Africa, personifying King Leopold II's tyrannical appetite for control in what would become the Congo Free State, notorious for its brutal exploitation. Meanwhile, in the east and south, Great Britain carved out vast regions for itself, while France, Germany, Portugal, and Italy followed suit across different swathes of the continent. Each division was strategic, ensuring that the European powers maximized their access to resources, markets, and trade routes, reinforcing a brutal system of economic exploitation and political domination. As Africa's land was claimed, the local populations faced drastic upheaval. Completely disregarded in the process, they found themselves suddenly divided by invisible borders, their heritage and communities torn apart by imperial machinations. The social and political implications of the conference sowed a legacy of strife and division that lingered long into the late 20th century, where the continent sought independence. The Berlin Conference symbolizes a poignant, painful chapter in history, marking the height of colonial ambition and the depths of its human cost. Over time, Africa's diverse nations have striven to reunite what was divided, forging paths that defy the lines once carelessly drawn by strangers far away. Today, as we reflect on the Berlin Conference, we are reminded of the importance of respecting sovereignty, valuing diversity, and the eternal necessity to learn from history so as to not repeat its darker episodes.